he created a monster, and another, and another, and another. Whew. Sheesh, Boris. Just how many more monsters can you fit in one movie? Talk about a monster bash. Hi guys, welcome to another video. Hope you're all keeping well. In this video, I'd like to continue on with my series of reviewing all the Universal monster movies. In this video, I'm going to review 1944's classic Universal horror, The House of Frankenstein, starring the late great Boris Karloff, Lon Chaney Jr., Glenn Strange, and John Carradine. Now, if you're not familiar with this movie, I'll just give a little bit of background about it. Now, this was originally called The Devil's Brood, and it was based on original story, The Devil's Brood, by Kurt Siodmak, and produced by Paul Malvern and directed by Earl C. Kenton. Now, basically, although Boris Karloff's in this movie, he doesn't actually play the Frankenstein monster. But he does play a very, very evil doctor, Dr. Gustav Nemon. Yeah, so basically, he's basically the central character, for most of the movie. Yeah, Dr. Gustav Nemon. So basically, it's a direct sequel to 1943's Frankenstein meets the Wolfman. Now, in this movie, not only do you get the two monsters from the movie just mentioned, but you'd also get Count Dracula, played by John Carradine, his first performance, one of two in the Universal series. Yeah, he was later to reappear a year later in The House of Dracula. But as I say, you've got Frankenstein's monster, you've got Lon Chaney Jr. back as Larry Talbot, the Wolfman. And as I say, House of Dracula, yeah, and of course you've got Boris Karloff. It's a real monster bash of a movie, this, guys. Yeah, I suppose you could say this was the first real monster bash movie what Universal started on that. Yeah. Okay, so onto the story. I won't give too much away of it, just in case you haven't seen it. But basically, the movie opens with Dr. Gustav Nemon, Boris Karloff's character, in prison with his hunchbacked assistant Daniel. He's played by J. Carroll Naish. Daniel. So basically, Nemon's in prison, incarcerated, and he's very, very bitter in that. He's been in prison all these years, and he's drawing on the wall all these scientific symbols and that, telling his hunchback Daniel, if he ever gets out of prison, he continues with his experiments and that, into the secrets of life and death. And he also claims that his brother actually worked with Dr. Frankenstein himself. So he passed, according to Karloff and Dr. Nemon, when Frankenstein died, Frankenstein passed his secrets on to his, Nemon's brother and that. But basically, they're in prison and that, and all of a sudden you get this very, very convenient, I must say, guys, very convenient thunderstorm, which completely wrecks the prison, paving the way for Boris Karloff to make a hasty exit with his assistants, Daniel, and of course the warders hopping mad because as the film opens, like, he hates them on, and he says, if I have my way, you'll never get out. If I have anything to say about it, you'll never get out of prison. But he's got to eat his words, guys. But anyway, Karloff escapes with Daniel and that, and what he does, he takes charge of a traveling I suppose you could call it a chamber of horrors, really. He takes control. He gets Daniel to murder. Professor Lampini is the guy who owns the Chamber of Horrors. He gets Daniel to strangle him and that. And Karloff takes over. He takes over the Chamber of Horrors and that. So they go on their travels and that, And what they do, among the Chamber of Horrors, they've got the actual skeleton of Count Dracula, among the Chamber of Horrors, So what Karloff does, he's when they have like the sideshow on for all the people, coming to see them, Karloff says to all the people, he has like this coffin, he has this skeleton with a stake in, and Karloff says, this in his usual sepulchral lispy tones, the actual skeleton of Count Dracula, and of course some of the people are a bit skeptical on that, but when he draws the curtains, Karloff, and that, afterwards, and what he does, he revives Dracula by taking the stake out of his heart, and John Carradine plays Dracula. And you slowly see him, materialise back into human form. And Karloff's standing there with the stake, and he says, like, if you don't obey me, I shall send yours, in his usual theatrical fashion, I shall send your soul back to the another world from whence it came and all that, you know, the universal, you know, the usual universal theatricals and that. Yeah. But anyway, Karloff, he gets Dracula to sort of like do his bidding, you might, you know, if you will. Anyway, I don't want to tell you too much about the story. I'm just going to try and skim around the outline and have it's a cracking movie, yeah. So then, of course, like we get Dracula's story first, like in the movie Monsters and that, you know, and then later on, I won't tell you what happened. I won't tell you what happens in that. Karloff travels on to Frankenstein's ruined castle, and there he meets all the villagers, sort of like saying like, don't go up there and that, you know, we've had enough horrors, Frankenstein, because they say to Karloff and that, what have you got there? And Karloff says, a chamber of horrors. Yeah, and of course, they say, well, the policeman comes, I think it's the policeman, you've got to move on, you know, we've had enough horrors down, we've had enough horrors in this town. A couple of years ago, we had the Frankenstein monster and the Wolfman wreaking havoc in that. So, you know, nobody ever goes up to those ruins of Frankenstein's castle. We don't want to be reminded of anything we wish to forget. Yeah. So basically, like, Karloff says, well, why? So, yeah, so you know, not doing any harm and that, yeah, but, you know, yeah. But, of course, Karloff, being the obsessed Dr. Gustav Niemann character that he is, he ventures up to the ruins of Frankenstein's castle. What does he do? He finds both Wolfman and Frankenstein entombed in ice and that. They've been there for about, I think it's about 4 or 5 years. So they revive both of them. You get Daniel lights a fire and Wolfman thaws out. Frankenstein's monster thaws out. And then Larry Talbot, after Wolfman thaws out, he's in Wolfman form, but he immediately changes back. To Talbot, and of course, you know, he starts resuming his pleas and that, you know, why did you free me from the ice that imprisoned the beast that lived within me? Bit of a mouthful to say when we've first been frozen out of ice, isn't it? Yeah, very, very theatrical. Yeah. But anyway, Cheney, Talbot, implores Dr. Niemann to help him, like, you know, free him from his Wolfman curse, and if he can't do that, but he wants to die. Well, of course, Karloff at first, he appears all concerned, very solicitous and that. Don't worry, my boy, I will help you, you know, in his usual sort of like disarming way. But of course, his main interest lies in the Frankenstein monster. He doesn't really give two hoots about curing Talbot. He's more interested in the Frankenstein monster. Yeah. But anyway, as the story progresses, we get like a love interest in the form of a little gypsy girl who they encounter as they're travelling and that, you know, yeah. And of course, you get a bit of a love triangle here because Daniel, the hunchback, he falls in love with the little gypsy girl because I think, if memory serves me correctly, saves her from getting thrashed or something, yeah, by one of the villagers or the gypsies, yeah. And of course, he falls in love with her. But then you've got Larry Talbot on the scene, and I think, you know, the gypsy girl, obviously she's more interested in Larry Talbot because, you know, of course, he hasn't got the hunchback for one thing in that, and of course, you know, she goes more for Talbot, and of course, Daniel gets jealous in that, yeah. So you've got a bit of a love triangle there, yeah. But anyway, I don't want to give any more too much about it now, guys, because you know, so if you haven't seen it, like, you know, it'll spoil it for you. But suffice to say, this is a real great monster bash, this, guys, yeah. The House of Frankenstein. Direct sequel, as I say, to Frankenstein meets the Wolfman. Karloff is always he really steals the show here, yeah. Portraying the evil Dr. Gustav Niemann, yeah. Oh yeah, he's a real mad scientist and that, and he stops at nothing to get what he wants and that. He's more interested in the Frankenstein monster, and he's very vicious, he's very cruel and that, you know, yeah. He's got no morals about him at all, he's like a bit like Frankenstein himself, really, in the Hammer films. You know, he's got no compunction about getting rid of anybody who stands in his way and that, you know, yeah. Oh yeah. Karloff, although Karloff didn't play the Frankenstein monster, you know, he really plays the mad scientist as good as he played the monster, you know, Dr. Gustav Niemann, yeah. And then they got Larry Talbot, of course, as sympathetic as ever and that, you know, with his curse and that, and got some good Wolfman transformation scenes in this, guys, as well, where he's standing in front of a mirror. Oh yeah. It's great to see all the monsters back together and that, you know, yeah. Dracula, Carradine, Frankenstein's monster played by Glenn Strange, and Larry Talbot, of course, playing, you know, Lon Chaney Jr. playing Larry Talbot, yeah. I watched this movie many times over the years, and I always have a good time when I watch The House of Frankenstein, yeah. And as I say, it's a cracking movie, yeah. And this is the one, apart from Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, this movie, guys, is the one that started the Universal, albeit short, run of Monster Bash movies, yeah. So if you haven't seen The House of Frankenstein, I highly recommend that you do, yeah, because it's a classic movie, yeah. And as I say, the acting's great, the cinematography's great. It's great to see all the monsters back together again in one movie and that, you know, yeah. Even though they didn't really share too much screen time together. It's a great movie, The House of Frankenstein, yeah. And if you're a Universal horror fan, you've got to have this in your collection, yeah. Okay, guys, well, that's my review of the review of the House of Frankenstein. Come to think of it, you know the song the Monster Mash that was made by Bobby Pickett and the Crypt Kickers. I think this was the movie, guys, and inspired that horror spoof, yeah, and a great horror spoof it is too, guys, yeah. The Monster Mash, yeah. Hissing in that, my memory serves me correctly, hit in the 1960s, and again it was in hit in 1973, the year I started high school, yeah. The Monster Mash, yeah. And Bobby Pickett is really on the money when he takes Boris Karloff off with that lisp and that, you know, yeah. It actually, I said to my mum when I first heard it, that does not sound like Boris Karloff. And of course, like, we knew it wasn't Boris Karloff because he passed away in 1969. Bobby Pickett and the Crypt Kickers. But yeah, as I say, I think this was the movie, guys, inspired that song, The House of Frankenstein. There are great photo of Glenn Strange as the Frankenstein monster. Yeah. Okay, guys. Well, that's my review of the House of Frankenstein from 1944. Great Monster Bash movie. Highly recommend it if you're a Universal monster fan. Yeah, absolute classic. Yeah, yeah. Okay, guys. Well, in the next video in this series, I hope to review the classic, the direct sequel to this, House of Dracula. So stay tuned for that. Yeah. Okay, guys. I hope you enjoyed the review. Yeah. Have you seen the House of Frankenstein? Leave your comments down below. What did you think of Boris Karloff's performance as the evil Dr. Namon? Yeah. Or indeed any of the other actors for that matter. You know, Wolfman. You know, Frankenstein's monster, even the Hunchback. You know, J. Carroll Naish. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, guys. Yeah. I hope you're all keeping well, staying safe, and I shall talk to you all in the next video. Thanks.